Yeah, the issue here I wanted to talk about is the issue of what the so-called colored people in South Africa. Colored people are not. Colored people are mixed race people. We're mixed race. Most colored people came from European fathers and native African females who were raped. Mostly the Khoisan people, the Khoisan females, the Xhosa females, the Zulu females, the Nguni females. Most of these females who were actually raped back in those days. There was no sort of like interbreeding. There was no communication because back in the days it was genocidal. There was a lot of genocide perpetrated towards a lot of black people not only in South Africa, throughout Africa, pretty much. When Europeans came to South Africa, they didn't come to South Africa. No, they were coming to Africa. The rest of Africa was being colonized. You know, like Nigeria, Ghana, almost the rest of Africa. There is no place in Africa where Europeans didn't colonize. So when they colonized Africa, they colonized Africa, every part of Africa. You know what I'm saying? And in 1880, to 1890, they introduced what they call the Berlin Conference, which was the creating of African countries into boundaries. You know, making African countries into boundaries and sharing African countries. But the issue I wanted to talk about was the issue of so-called colored people. Colored people you're not necessarily natives. Colored people are mixed race people. Most of colored people, I would say all colored people in Africa, not just in South Africa alone, colored people in Africa are children of Europeans. Most of colored people, look at their pictures of their great-grandfathers. Their great-grandfathers were white males. The females were native. Is what I'm saying. So a colored person, pretty much your forefathers are Europeans. Colored people, by nature, they're actually children of Europeans. They're not natives. There was a man who was talking about the so-called, I don't know, in South Africa, this guy who called himself colonial. Is it the Cornelius the Third? There is no Khoisan called Cornelius in Africa. This Cornelius there's never been an English name in South Africa. There is no Khoisan person with an English name. There is nothing like that. Nelson Mandela is a Khoisan. You see what I'm saying? Nelson Mandela himself was a Khoisan. His surname Mandela. Look at the African people who are native: Zuma, Malema, Mandela. These Khoisan, these are native surname. There is nobody there is no Khoisan called Cornelius the Third. Cornelius the Third. That man is a son of a European. So don't fool yourself and talk about the history that you were there, or Khoisan people were given the land by God. You're stupid. You're a liar. Okay, Khoisan, there was no land of Khoisan. Khoisan were hunter-gatherers. All Africans were hunter-gatherers. There is no Zulu who were the land or farms. Zulus were part of black people who were hunter. Every African person is a hunter-gatherer. There is no black person in Nigeria who can say I was given Nigeria. By who? There's no black person in Ghana who can say I was given Ghana. No. African kingdoms were all over Africa. We were hunter-gatherers all over Africa. We were chasing meat animals. The same thing the Bushmen keep doing today. So don't come and say that the Bantu came from the north. There is no Bantu coming from the north. The word Bantu it's an African, it's a Zulu name meaning Bantu. There's nothing called Bantu. The word Bantu was introduced by Europeans, trying to spell the word Bantu. They put a B in it's a Zulu name meaning Bantu. There is nothing called a Bantu tribe, because every black person in Africa is classified as a Bantu. There is nothing called a Bantu. Bantu, what is the word Bantu? Bantu means people. It's just a Zulu name for people. Many people, a lot of Europeans and a lot of people don't know what the word Bantu means. Bantu is a Zulu name meaning people. It means nothing, pretty much. It just means people. Europeans are classified as Bantu. You know what I'm saying? It means people. It doesn't mean anything. So don't say, well, the Bantu people came from the north. The word Bantu means people. It's a Zulu name for people. Abantu are people. It's the same. Ubuntu means people. It's a Zulu name. Ubuntu, Abantu. It means people. It doesn't mean anything. It's not a tribe. If you say Xhosa, Zulu, Sutu, there's a tribe. Bantu is not a tribe. It means people. Russians are Bantu. Europeans are Bantu. Chinese are Bantu. It's a Zulu name meaning people. Many people are not aware of the names in Africa. They're not aware of these names, what they mean. They think it's a tribe. It's not a tribe. Because the word Zulu itself, in Zulu language, means rain. I speak Zulu myself. Zulu means rain. Zulu also means thunder. Zulu also means tribe of people. So a lot of people don't know until we Africans explain to that. Myself, my mother is Khoisan, my father is Zulu. So I don't need explanation from my own mother language. I don't need explanation. Someone said, oh, the Bantu came from the north. There's no Bantu coming from. There is no person who's called Bantu. Bantu means people. You saw what I'm saying? Nigerians are not Bantu. They're not Bantu. It just means people. Nobody in Nigeria who was saying, oh, I noticed the so-called coloured in South Africa. This guy was called Cornelius III. He's not a native there. He's a coloured. Coloured is not Khoisan. Khoisan are natives. Khoisan people are Africans. A Khoisan is an African. A lot of coloured in South Africa, most of their forefathers are not black. They're not black African men. They're European. All coloureds in South Africa, they were fathers by Europeans. That's why most of the time they don't want to unite with the black people, because they know they're not black. They're not natives there. Coloured people are not native. Coloured people are not native. Khoisan are. A Khoisan, Nelson Mandela is. Nelson Mandela is a Khoisan. A real Khoisan, Nelson Mandela. He's the Khoisan. He's the first black Khoisan president in South Africa. He's Khoisan. Julius Malema is Khoisan. Ngandile is Khoisan. That's why they click. Coloured people don't have click sound. They don't. Most of their language is European, because all of their forefathers are European. Coloured people in South Africa are not native at all. They're not native. They're just fooling themselves, because a lot of things they were told, oh, I was given this land. Who gave you? South Africa, there was nothing called South Africa back in the days. There was nothing called South Africa 400 years ago, 500 years ago, 600 years ago. Africa was the entire continent. Black people were hunter-gatherers. They hunted animals throughout Africa. So don't fool yourself and lie and talk a lot of rubbish that you were given, blah, blah, blah. You are a coloured. The coloured is a mixed race. That is what it means. Obama, President Obama is a coloured. You see what I'm saying? He's not a Khoisan, he's a coloured. Why is a coloured? One parent is African, one parent is European. He is a coloured. He's not native in Africa, he's just a coloured. Natives are people who are not changed. Like his father. Obama's father is native in Kenya. You see what I'm saying? The Bushmen in South Africa, people we call the Bushmen, those who are not coloured. For example, this person here, you want to see what is called a coloured? This person here is a coloured. You see what I'm saying? There is no Khoisan like this. It's called look like a mixed. Look at this mixed person. You see the word mixed here. This is what coloured are. Mixed with European and black. And look at the person. Look how this person looks. You think a Khoisan look like this? Have you ever seen a Khoisan looking like this? Have you ever seen a Khoisan looking like this? You understand me? There is nobody. There is no Khoisan looking like this. This is not a Khoisan. A lot of coloured look like this. You see what I'm saying? That is not. This is not a Khoisan. There is no Khoisan looking like this. There is nobody called Khoisan look like this. These are colours. This is why it's called mixed race here. This is what mixed people look like. They look like European. Most of them are, if their fathers are European. This is not a Khoisan person. You see, a lot of coloured people look like this. They've got hair looking like this. Khoisan women don't have hair like this. There is no Khoisan looking like this in Africa. This is what you call a coloured person. You see what I'm saying? This is what you call a coloured person. This is not a Khoisan. Khoisan don't look like this. Okay, this is not a Khoisan. This is not native. This is not native to Africa. This is not indigenous to Africa. This is not a native person. This is a coloured, a mixed race person. This, you see what I'm saying? It's a mixed race person. Look at the way they look. That's not a Khoisan person. There's no Khoisan women looking like this in Africa. There's nothing like that. These are coloured people. These are people whose father, they were fathered by, most of them, they were fathered by Europeans, born from native African, real African women. And this is what was born from European men and native black female. This is what you call coloured. Today, some people call them mixed mixed people, mulatto, biracial people, mixed people, but this is not a Khoisan. There's no Khoisan like this. And this is what we see called colored. This is what I want to show you, that there is no Khoisan like this. Nobody Khoisan looks like this. This is mixed here, mixed person. So don't ever fool yourself, okay? This is what I was saying. Don't ever fool yourself. And so I'll talk about how you are real Khoisan people and things of that nature. You're not. Okay? That's the issue I wanted to talk. You're not Khoi. You're not Khoisan. A lot of people you see in South Africa talking about Khoisan people don't have European surname. There is no Khoisan. Nelson Mandela is a Khoisan. His surname is black. All black people in South Africa, all black people in South Africa who are native to South Africa, all of them have got native surname. Ngwenya, Ndlovu, Mqinqi, this is their sound. They don't have European surname. The way that guy who's called Cornelius, who told you that there was a king called Cornelius in South Africa? There is no Khoisan called Cornelius. There's nobody like that. There is no Khoisan with a European surname. There is nobody in South Africa called Cornelius. There is never a king called. You have got the kings called Shaka. Exactly, a Zulu name. Shaka the Zulu. Mzilikazi, with Mzilikazi, Lobengula, all of them, they're Zulu surnames. There's nobody. You see, all the colored people have got European surname. All coloreds in South Africa, all of them. Why? Because they were fathered with the European men. They were never fathered. A Khoisan man never married a white lady. Okay? Khoisan men never married a white lady. So they never transmit their surname to mixed, to colored. So the colored people you see in South Africa, most of them are European. Most of their forefathers are European. They're not native there. Don't fool yourself and say, "Oh, I was here for thousands of years." You're never there for thousands of years. You are fathered by Europeans 300 years ago. 300 years. All colored, their history is 300 years old. When European came to the present day, that's where your history is. Prior to that, there was nobody in Africa with European name. All Europeans were still in Europe. So there is nobody in Africa with the names of European English names. So don't fool yourself. I was looking to this guy who calls himself Cornelius III, and said, "Oh, all these people came to Africa." You're a liar, man. You're lying. You're fooling yourself. I know who you are. You are a mixed race person. That's why they call you mixed race. Most of your fathers were European. Boers, Dutch, Germany, English, Scottish, Irish, all these people who came to South Africa, those were the fathers of colored, because they were intermarrying into local females. 9 out of 10, it was actually by force. It was not a participant, it was by force, because back in the days things were not the way it looks today. Things were horrible. There was a lot of genocide for a lot of black people. So don't come and lie and say, well, oh, the Nguni, the Bantu came from. There's nothing like that. Africans moved everywhere in Africa. There's no black person who had a boundary, who had a country in Africa, throughout Africa. The boundaries we see today, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Botswana, Tanzania, Kenya, they were put by Europeans. Nobody was called Kenyan. Nobody was called Nigeria. All these, Nigeria is a name of European. European put the word Cameroon. Nobody called themselves Cameroon. Okay, these are European names. Africa didn't have a European name before European came in. All Africa was not called even Africa. You see, it was a huge continent with the tribes. All tribes were going anywhere they like. There was no boundary. So if you call yourself, well, I'm the real native, you're not the real native. Most colored people in South Africa, they're liars. You're pretending. Most colored don't want to unite with the black people. Why? Because they know that they're not real. They're not natives. They belong to Europe. A lot of colored people in South Africa. You're not native, because guess what? Nelson Mandela is not going to say he's not black. Nelson Mandela is not going to say he's black. Nelson Mandela loved black people. You see, so a lot of colored hate black people. Nelson Mandela is a real Khoisan who loved black people. Colored don't love black people because colored are mixed people of European heritage. They're not natives there. Nelson Mandela is the first Khoisan president, and he loved black people. All native people, all Khoisan people love black people. They love Zulus, Khoisan, they love all African people because we're one people. We're just different tribes, but not a colored. A colored person is mixed with Europe and Africa. That's why colored people are mixed with Europe and Africa. That's why a lot of colored. Notice a lot of colored in the Cape Town. Have you ever seen a colored uniting with black people? No. Exactly, because they know that they're not native. Their forefathers are European. I've went into colored people and I've looked at their pictures. Every time you look at a colored person in South Africa's pictures, their grandfathers were all, most of them were white. All of them were white. White grandfathers, white, all coloreds, all of them. That means you're actually European children. You just have got black skin because of the local black females, which were the mothers. But in reality, you came from your fathers. That's why you carry the surname of your forefathers. You see, in Africa, there is no black person with European surname. In Africa, there's nothing like that. All Africans, look at the surnames of Africans who are native: Zuma, Mandela, Malema. All our surnames in Africa are African surnames. There is no African person with a surname called Cornelius. Have you ever seen a Khoisan? A Khoisan with a surname called Cornelius? Cornelius the Third. Who was Cornelius the Second? All these names, it's clear indication you're not native there. You're not native, you belong in Europe. You see, you're not native in Africa. No. You're fooling yourself. You're fooling yourself. There is no, this is why you see in Africa we don't have Chinese surname. Why? Because you come from China. We know, we can see if you have got a Chinese surname like, my name is Xin Shan. We know you're not, you don't belong in Africa. You see, Africans don't have surname like that. Africans, real native, real Khoisan people don't have European surname. There is no Bushman with a European code, Cornelius surname. Have you ever seen a Bushman with, where did they get that? Who gave them that? Cornelius. Cornelius the Third. Cornelius. Look at the real person, Shaka Zulu. Exact Shaka or Chaka Zulu. You see what I'm saying? That's a real native surname. Not a Cornelius, Wellington, Matthew, Brown, Gibson. Have you ever seen a Khoisan with names like that? In Africa we can see this name is not local. It's not native to South Africa. A lot of colored people are mixed up. In South Africa, a lot of colored people in South Africa are not educated. They don't know who they really are, because you're not necessarily native in Africa. You are born from native females, but your fathers were not native, which makes you actually European children. You're actually European children. By nature, you're African, because children carry the surname of their father. You see what I'm saying? Nelson Mandela, a Khoisan. His father was Khoisan. Grandfather, Khoisan. Great-grandfather, Khoisan. All of them. And look at his surname now. Mandela is still there. The local name of the land, Mandela, is still name. It's Zuma, the local surname is still there, Zuma. Malema, see, they all have got a local surname, not the word Cornelius. Cornelius, have you ever seen an African called Cornelius? An African called with a surname called Alexander, Gibson, Jacobson, Matthew, Wellington, Washington. An African Khoisan with a surname like that? We can see, and these are colored people. Their fathers were not local. The colored people, their fathers were European. Their forefathers, their grandfathers were Europeans. Most of them are confused because they don't really know who they are. Real who you are. That's why a lot of colored, if you noticed in South Africa, a lot of colored people, they don't want to unite with black people because they know they're not real, they're not natives. Because your forefathers are European. They're actually your Europeans. Do you know that the Idi Amin, a person who ruled Uganda, kicked all the coloreds to Europe? Kicked all the coloreds to Europe. He told them, you don't belong here. And they left. They went back to countries like England. A lot of colored people, because the forefathers were not. Why they were sent? Why did this guy Idi Amin send colored people out of Uganda? Because a lot of colored people didn't want to unite with the black people. They didn't want to unite with black people. They always against black people, and then the real black people took over, and they say all colored march out, go follow your forefathers. That's what happened to Uganda. Go and study the story of Idi Amin. Go and study the story of Idi Amin, the so-called Ugandan dictator in the 1970s and 80s. He shipped all the colours out. Why? Because the colour didn't like to unite with black people. They were always against. Why? Because they knew their fathers were not black. They were not black and they were not native. So they were shipped out of the country to Europe. The Europeans were told to take these coloured children, they don't belong here, because they did not like to unite with the locals. That's the situation you see in South Africa. A lot of coloured people are always against the black locals, which is a mistake. It's a mistake you do. You keep against black people, you are going to be sidelined. And in the future, they end up looking at you as pretty much not natives. These people are against black people. These people are always going to be used by the Europeans and things of that nature. So they'll end up saying, you know what? There's going to come a day in which they'll end up saying, coloured don't belong here. So a lot of coloured people have to be careful what they do, especially in Africa. You have to be careful what they do. If they don't unite with black people and say we're part of black people, and if you say you do and you're not part of black, you are teaching black people bit by bit that you are the same way. They're going to treat you like you don't belong there, sooner or later. Sooner or later, because the native Africans know who you are. They know you're a mixed person. That's why the word coloured is put on you. That's why the word coloured is put on you. You're a person with a colour, but because you're mixed. But if you don't unite with the black people, sooner or later you will end up becoming treated the same way as a foreigner. You're going to be treated the same way as Indian, Chinese, and a lot of even Europeans, Indian, Chinese, and European. They're going to treat colours the same way. You saw what I'm saying? Because they know if you take a coloured person in South Africa, you take their DNA, you're going to find Europe, Dutch, Boer, German, things of that nature. Same thing with Indian, same thing with European, Indian, Chinese, and things of that nature. So a lot of coloured people are not. Khoisan are Africans. Remember, South Africa has got Khoisan. Namibia has got Khoisan. Well, Khoisan people didn't live in South Africa alone. They were in the SADC region, not only SADC. The Khoisan in Angola, the Khoisan in Zimbabwe, the Khoisan in South Africa, the Khoisan in Namibia, the Khoisan in Sudan, the Khoisan in Uganda. You see, the Khoisan in as far as Sudan. How did they end up there? Because all Khoisan people were hunter-gatherers, just like everybody else. Zulus were hunter-gatherers. Zimbabwe has got 7 million Zulus. Zimbabwe. They live in the south of Zimbabwe. How did they end up there? Because they were not staying in one place. People were hunter-gatherers, everybody. Every African hunted animals, so they moved anywhere they like. Africa had no boundaries back in the days. 400-500 years ago, Africa had no boundary. There was nobody called Nigeria, Ghanaian. There's nothing like that. There were no names like that in Africa. Africa was just a black continent. Every black person moved anywhere they like, any direction. So they don't fool yourself, these so-called coloured people, saying, I was here, you're not there. They're still Khoisan in Namibia. How come they don't come to South Africa and claim South Africa? Because they belong everywhere in Africa. Real Khoisan are not coloured. Coloured people know that they're not real native. That's why they talk nonsense about, I used to be here for thousands. No, you're never there. Coloured came after, when Europeans came in, coloured started being produced. When Europeans came in, coloured started being produced because the Europeans were mixing with the local African females. That's how the coloured people started. So coloured people have got less than 300 years. When Europeans came in, that's when coloured started becoming produced. Before Europeans coming, there was nothing called coloured. There was nothing called coloured. There was nothing called Bushmen. The word Bushman is a European word saying these Africans who live in the bush. So there was nothing called the Bushmen. There was nothing called the Honti-Tons. There's nothing like that. Nobody called the Honti-Tons. Europeans were just putting names for people they see different. That's why there is Khoisan in Namibia. There's also Khoisan in south of Angola. Why is that they don't come and claim South Africa? Why? Because they were hunter-gatherers. They stayed everywhere they are. There's still Khoisan people in Zimbabwe. How come they don't go to South Africa and claim land in South Africa? No, because Khoisan are Africans. Just like me. I'm also have got Khoisan in my blood. I've got Bushmen in my blood. I've got Khoisan in my blood. But I'm not going to come and claim any part of Africa. Any part of Africa belongs to me. Anyway, because we were hunter-gatherers. We hunted anything. You see what I'm saying? So don't just claim one part. Why claim one part? When Khoisan are everywhere in Africa. They are in 17 countries. You see what I'm saying? Why are they not claiming any part? Because the Africans, they're part of me. You see, my grandmother is also Khoisan. You see what I'm saying? But colored is different from Khoisan. A colored is a mixed person from European black. That's what a colored is. This guy called Cornelius and this man who's called Mackenzie. Look, Khoisan were very small. There's no Khoisan who was big and fat like that. Khoisan men are very small and tiny. They're very small and tiny. All of them. There is no Khoisan man who's big and fat. There's nothing like that. There's nothing. Most of you colored are no, you're colored. Colored are mixed race. Not Khoisan, no. You're just fooling yourself because you don't know who you are. You're just fooling yourself. I know who you are because I studied. I know the history of colored people. Colored people are even in Kenya. Colored people is just a mix of European Africans. That's where the colored come from. Many countries call you mixed race, like Obama. Obama is a colored, but he doesn't belong in South Africa. He's a colored. It's just a mixed. So he's got other parents in Europe and other parents in Africa. That's why he's called a colored. A colored is a mixed person. He's not a native. There is no native person called colored. You know, understand me? Nelson Mandela is not a colored. He's a real native Khoisan. Nelson Mandela is the first Khoisan person. He's the first Khoisan African leader in South Africa. Or was Nelson Mandela? He's a real Khoisan. And guess what? He's part of me. That's why many black people love Nelson Mandela. He's part of us. But colored are not part of us. Most why? Because a lot of colored people don't want to unite with black people. They always want to be side with other Europeans, Asian, people like that, because they know they're not Africans. But a real Khoisan person is African. Khoisan, I love Khoisan people. They're just one of us. Khoisan is just a tribe similar to Sutu, Xhosa, Nguni, Feng. There was nothing called Khoi back in the days. The word Khoi, Europeans called the word Khoi, it was called Khoi. Europeans put a K. The word Sen, there was nothing called Sen. The Sen people never called themselves Sen. They were called the Fen. The Feng, many people called them Amafeng. But no one was explaining. They couldn't pronounce it, the click. The Khoi, it was called the Khoi. There was nothing called Khoi. The is written in European. They couldn't call. For example, the word Bantu. There's no B in Zulu, so we use the word Vantu. Avantu. Vantu is Bantu. It's called Vantu. Or Umuntu or Vantu. Vantu means people. Muntu means one person. But then if you put Bantu, Europeans come and say Ba, Bantu. That's not Zulu. We don't say Ba, we say Vantu. So, like I say, a lot of people has been explained wrongly throughout the history. People putting their words, talking for black people when black people, they're supposed to be asking us, what do we mean? Because in Africa, Zulu, for example, has got 3 different meanings. It means rain, thunder, and also tribe. We call it Zulu means rain. Thunder means Zulu. Rain means Zulu. Also people, tribe also means Zulu. But if you don't come and explain and talk to us and just put in your own interpretation like what early Europeans did, this is how they messed up things back in the days. So the issue I was talking about is the issue of colored people. Colored people are not Europeans. Like the picture I just showed you there. That's a colored person. That's not a Khoisan. Khoisan don't have green eyes, hazel eyes. No. Khoisan have got brown eyes. Short hair. All Khoisan people have got very short hair. Most of the hair of Khoisan is very small, very tiny. Colored people have got long hair because they're mixed race. Big long hair like the picture I showed you. That's a picture of a colored. But the real Khoisan people have got very short hair. Very short, it doesn't grow. Most of them look bald. Most of the Khoi people. You see what I'm saying? So that is the issue I wanted to talk. But colored people, this so-called guy who's called Cornelius is just a liar. You see, colored people, all colored people have got European surname. They're not native. Colored people started being born when Europeans landed there over 300 years ago. That's when colored people started getting born. Before that, there was nothing called colored in Africa, not just South Africa, in Africa. You see what I'm saying? There was no country called South Africa, Namibia, that didn't exist. Black people go anywhere they like to hunt. So don't put labels and say, oh, we colored people, we've been there for hundreds of millions of years. You're never there, you're lying. That is the history you were told. You were told by Europeans. That's not your history, you're lying. We know it for a fact, you're lying. Most of the colored people you see present day in South Africa, they're not Khoisan. No. You're mixed race people. You're not Khoisan, you're mixed race people. Nelson Mandela is not a mixed race. He's a Khoisan. But Colored are not like Nelson Mandela. Colored are actually mixed race. Two different races, Africa and Europe. That's where Colored is. There's nothing called Colored in Africa. Khoisan people don't have European surname. Cornelius the Third. Cornelius the Third. Who gave you this fake Cornelius the Third? I have looked at Cornelius the Third. His great-father was European. That means you're not necessarily. You shouldn't be even. That means you shouldn't be even be called a Khoisan, because you are stealing the name of real Khoisan Africans who have got African surname, who are real, who are not mixed, who are real Khoisan. They're still in the bush. You see, the real Khoisan are still in the bush, not these fake colors who call themselves, oh, I'm a Khoisan, and you're a liar. There's nobody, no Khoisan called Cornelius in Africa. There's no Khoisan with a European surname. Nothing like that. That's a lie, man. A liar. Cornelius the Third. Cornelius the Third. I was even laughing myself. Cornelius. Have you ever seen a Khoisan called Cornelius? They speak click, clack, click, click, clack, clack, but they don't pronounce it Cornelius. You're a liar, man. Full of lying and fake. Straight out. Don't lie to Africans. Because I come from South Africa myself. Cannot lie from me. No.